Hello, I've got some more stories for you on exposure, and it's my hope that hearing these stories will inspire you. Maybe one of them will be similar to some type of fear you're struggling with. And even if your own type of anxiety is different, it's my hope that these stories will give you hope and the glimpsing. When you see someone else's life change dramatically and rapidly, I want you to see that that's going to be possible for you too if you're struggling with anxiety. The first is a story at the end of a workshop I did in Denver. It was a 2-day workshop on anxiety. And at the end of day one, I was just, this was the day where we had an overhead projector. So we had all these big transparency things that I'd put on the overhead projector, and it would shoot up to the screen. And at the end, I'd have to pack up and, bring the stuff up to my hotel room and get it out of the conference room. And as I was doing that, a woman approached me. Everyone had left. And she said she regretted not volunteering for the live demonstration I did in the workshop. But she kind of had chickened out, but she wondered if I could give her any help with her fear. And I said, well, what type of fear do you have? And she said, I have an elevator phobia, and I've been in psychoanalysis for more than 20 years to get over it, 5 days a week on the analyst's couch. And he's been exploring my childhood. And I still have my elevator phobia, and I asked him how much longer it would take to get over it. And he said that we probably just needed 2 or 3 more years of exploration of my childhood. My question, Dr. Burns, is how long does it generally take in your experience to overcome an elevator phobia? And I told her, well, I've treated a number of people with elevator phobias, and I would say the length of time required for treatment is somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. And she said, what are you talking about? That sounds impossible. I've been at it for 20 years already, and I haven't made a bit of progress. And I don't know how you could possibly cure someone in 10 or 15 minutes. And I said, well, if you'd like, I'd be happy to treat you right now. And she said, oh, really? What would I have to do? And I said, well, now this was on the bottom floor of a hotel. It was about 5 stories up. And I said, well, there's an elevator right over there. And it's going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes to pack up my equipment here. So I just want you to go over and get on that elevator and ride it until you're cured, and then you can come on back and tell me. And it probably won't take more than 10 minutes. And she said, oh, no, I couldn't possibly do that. And I said, oh, actually, you could possibly do that. You just take your feet and you walk over to the elevator, press the button. When the door opens, you walk in there. And then you stay there. And she said, no, I'd be too terrified. And I said, well, what are you afraid of? And she says, I'm afraid that the walls are going to come in and crush me, and all the oxygen is going to disappear. It'll all get used up, so I'll suffocate. And I said, well, you can get on the elevator and check it out. And by the way, what most people call exposure, you can also view as a cognitive therapy technique, because you do an experiment to test your belief. See, she has the belief, if I get on an elevator, these 2 horrible things will happen. I'll get crushed and I'll suffocate. And so you get on the elevator and you do a test and find out. And she says, well, no, I can't do that unless you come with me. And I said, I can't come with you on the elevator, then you won't be scared and it won't do you any good. You have to, become maximally panicky to have the full effect of exposure. And she said, well, if you'll come with me, I promise you I'll get, as panicky as you want me to. And so she said, so I said, okay, if you promise to get real panicky, we'll do it together, and we'll make it kind of an experiment. So we got on the elevator, and I said, how, on the bottom floor, and the doors closed, and I said, how anxious are you? And she said, 90% on a 0 to 100. And I said, that's not high enough. You promised me you'd freak out. I want you to get up to 100. And by the way, when I do exposure, the important thing is not to try to control your anxiety, in fact, to try to make it worse. And I said, for example, and then the elevator started going up, and I said, the walls are probably going to start moving in now. Just put your hands on them. You can probably feel them. Can you feel the walls moving in? And she put her hands up, and she said, they don't seem to be moving. And I said, well, I'm sure they'll start moving at any moment. And then we stopped on, the floor, the doors opened, a family came in, and we were talking, and I said, I hope you don't mind if we're talking while you're in the elevator, but I'm treating this woman's elevator phobia because she might freak out. She promised me she'd freak out. And so I said, and now, take a deep breath, because this family's in here. They're probably going to use up all the oxygen. So take a deep breath and see if you can take a deep breath. And she took a deep breath, and the elevator started going up again. And she said, there seems to be plenty of oxygen in here. And I said, well, how anxious are you? She said, it's dropped to 50. I said, you push it up to 100. You haven't freaked out yet. Put your hands on the walls again. I'm sure you'll feel them coming in to crush us. And by this time, we were on the top floor of the hotel. And she says, Dr. Burns, I've got some bad news for you. I said, what's that? She says, I'm not going to be able to freak out. My anxiety went to 0. And that had taken about a minute and a half. And then I said, well, I'm going to get off here on the 5th floor, and I'll wait for you. And I want you to go down to the bottom and up to the top again alone. And she said, sure, no problem. And so I saw the elevator, saw the lights as it went down to the bottom floor, and then saw it come up to the top again. And she got out and said, Dr. Burns, this is like a miracle. My elevator phobia has vanished. So that's the story of one woman's elevator phobia. And she emailed me, a week or two later, saying that she had told her psychoanalyst she was going to terminate treatment, and that she had been going up and down elevators in tall office buildings, and that her fear of elevators was, completely and totally gone. And that's the cool thing about elevators. Now, it doesn't always happen that fast. When I tell a story, I select a story that is dramatic and illustrates the point that I'm trying to make. And sometimes you have to try a few different things before you find the thing that works for you. But it's such a matter of joy for me to see someone's life change so quickly. Also, I used to feel some anger and frustration at my profession, that so many things are told to people who are in treatment that sometimes just simply aren't true or fair. And my goal in therapy has been to complete therapy as fast as possible, rather than to have people hanging on for weeks or months or years, or in this case, even decades, without any tangible results. Now, I'm sure that psychoanalyst, I suspect, was a very sincere person who had been trained that way, and he firmly believed in what he was doing, and he probably thought that it would eventually pay off for his patient, but it simply hadn't, and it's sad to see how much wasted time and energy and money when such a simple thing as exposure, with a little help from someone who cares to kind of push you and make you do the exposure, can often get the job done in a remarkably short period of time. So that's another story of escape from phobias. So thanks for watching.